Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today with my friends from allfreeknitting.com I'm going to show you how to cake dye a skein of yarn in a symmetrical fashion. This is useful if you are going to be, say, making a shawl starting at one side working to the other and you want the ends to be the same, or if you want to cake dye yarn for socks and try to have both socks have some similarity. To start off, you're going to wind the yarn that you want to dye into a center pull ball on your yarn swift. And then you're going to take the center pull, so one end, and then the end from the outside, and pull them together, bring them together. And what we're going to be doing is winding a skein with both ends at the same time. So it's going to be a double ball. And you want to wind it fairly loosely. Because we want the dye to be able to penetrate the ball. But what we're doing is, the two ends of the yarn will not be identical, but they will be a lot more similar than they would have been had we started with our original cake. And the reason why I choose to do it this way rather than winding half of your skein into a cake, weighing it, cutting it, and then winding the second half of the skein into a cake is because little differences on how the ball is actually wound will create differences in your colorway. So if you put two cakes in the same pot, the coloration will be similar, but they will not be identical. All right. So now we have two choices. Whether or not you want to cut your end. If you want to make socks and if you're either gonna knit two at a time, or if you're gonna knit socks two at a time, or if you want to use only half, this is a 100-gram ball, so if you want two 50-gram skeins, then you can cut the end right here. If you want a symmetrical colorway for your project, then don't cut the ends. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the ends. Since I'm not going to be knitting this up right away, I want to show how similar the two final skeins we get from this look. I am preparing my dye bath. I have 7 cups of water. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons, roughly, of white vinegar. There it is. Give this a little stir. And then for our food coloring based dye, today I'm going to use Easter egg tablets. I'm going to add 2 purple and 1 blue. Give this a little bit of a stir. And so we're going to bring our dye bath to a light boil. I am not pre-soaking my yarn because I want to get as much of a kettle dyed effect as possible. Alright, we are at a bit of a rolling boil. I want to reduce the heat. So just to be a light simmer. And I have some excess water on the side in case this is not, the level isn't high enough for our nice cake with 2 strands wound together. So now using a slotted spoon, and just place the cake on and slowly and carefully add it to the pot. And I am going to add some more water. That's 2. 3 more cups of water. All right. I will raise the heat until we bring this back to a boil. But we are going to let this sit until the water runs clear. All right, we're about 10 minutes in, and you can see that we've got the coloration on here isn't great, so there's actually more purple. It looks very blue, but we've got it's very dark around the outside and paler towards the center. We won't know how much white there is around until we are ready to pop it open, but that's the fun of cake dyeing. You don't know what you're going to get until you're done. There's still some color in the dye bath, so I'm going to let this go longer. The stove is on really low, so I'm going to pop the cover on and wait and let this simmer a little bit longer. After another 10 minutes, the dye bath has not seemed to clear too much more. So I'm now going to turn off the heat and let it cool, but with the cake of yarn in the dye bath, so that way as it's cooling it will soak up any extra yarn. So most of the dye has exhausted from the water, and I am now going to carefully remove the cake so it can start to dry. Look at that. I can't help myself. Oh, fun! It looks like we've got some pink on the inside. It looks like a lot of pink on the inside. Not what I would have expected. And the bottom is more purple. Oh, fun. Well, I cannot wait to open it, but like with other cake dyeing that we've done, we need to let this, probably should not have been messing with it so much at first. We need to let it cool completely and then wash it and then let it dry. And I'm adding just a little bit of liquid dish soap to my bath in lukewarm water because the cake has cooled completely. I'm being very gentle with my squeezes. And most of the color is in the yarn, which is good. That's what we would want. But you want to rinse your cake until the water runs clear, and then let it sit somewhere to dry. These, when you decide to unwrap the yarn is your own decision, but I like to let it sit for a while, which can be as much as a day or two before trying to open it up. I'm back with our beautiful cake dyed strand, and now I'm ready to unwind it from this ball so we can have 2 separate skeins. Now, if you're doing 2 at a time socks, then you can just take advantage, once it's dry, of the fact that we have a center pull ball and start knitting straight from the center. But if you want to have separate skeins, or if you decided to make the symmetrical skein and did not cut the ends as we have, then you're going to want to wind it. So what I have here is my homemade, I'm sure you can see, my homemade nitty knotty. And instead of having it oriented as a nitty knotty normally would, I've turned the 2 arms to be parallel, more like an H shape. But you can use, 2 chairs or anything you want. And so rather than doing like the classic nitty knotty type shape, I'm going to wind, it's going to be fairly slow, but 1 strand around 1 arm, that rather than lose the end over and over, I've tied pretty loose knot around one end. And now I'm going to wrap one strand around one side and the other strand around the other. And unwinding and untwisting where necessary. Let's see, it's time to do the top one a bit. And so this is a niddy-noddy with a fairly long centerpiece because I want these two skeins that I'm winding now to be long enough to go on my yarn swift for when I'm ready to pull them back into center pull balls. I'm partway through winding the ball and I just wanted to show you what it was looking like and the pretty variations in color that we get in our two twin skeins. And I'm not sure if I mentioned, but if you didn't cut the ends, if you wanted one long symmetrical skein, once we're done winding it, you'll have the beginning and end of the ball over on either side. And so then you can wind it into one continuous ball that you can use to knit by winding first one of these skeins and then the second. So it'll just sort it out a bit better. So here we go. I've tied off our lovely symmetrical skeins. Ties at the bottom. Now I am removing my niddy-noddy. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to get a symmetric or identical skeins using the cake dyeing method. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and this video was brought to you by allfreeknitting.com.